Hello, folks. This is Brian Cavanaugh here. I am the founder and co-CEO of Free TV. Thanks for joining us today. We obviously help people cut the cord and save money. We do a lot of different things. I'll kind of show some of those as we get through this. But a big part of what we do too is also related to internet and streaming and networking. As you can see on our website here in the top left, just freetv.com. We have a couple of resources for you here. We have a lot of great blog posts. And then obviously the webinars. So if you click on this little orange button here, you can see what future webinars we have coming up. Next week, we have webinars every Wednesdays. So definitely invite, friends, families, come back yourself because there'll be different topics each week. Next week, we'll be discussing more just cord cutting in general and, how to make it so you're saving the most money and having an easy to use solution. And the following week will be really interesting. It's kind of a follow-up to this webinar, more related to all the details on, just different streaming services. A lot of free content, not just for TV, but entertainment, phone, music, pretty much anything you can think of related to, just free content. So that'll be another great one to tune into in a couple of weeks. Anyway, if you go up to our website, you can sign up for any future webinars. If you're an existing customer, you can actually refer friends here and make a little bit of money back yourself and help them out. Our average customer saves $1,500 a year, so significant. And then the other thing, if you're new to Free TV, the thing I would suggest is everything that we're talking about today is pretty complicated. Everybody's situation is different. There's a lot of touch points. The best way is just to schedule a call. So if you're new to Free TV, I would also just click through here and schedule a personalized call. And then we can kind of get into the details of what's going on with your situation, whether it's related to internet or TV or streaming or networking or just anything. We can help you out with about anything you need there. So anyway, I'll first start by giving you a little bit of history of my background. So I actually started with big telecom. I worked for US West, Quest, CenturyLink, even out of the corporate office. I was there for like 13 years. So I have a big background there. I kind of got tired of watching people get ripped off and treated poorly and all the other nonsense that goes on in the world of corporate telecom. So I created Free TV about 10 years ago to try to help people navigate through all these confusing options, not just with TV, but also with internet and, the whole networking and Wi-Fi and a lot of the things we're talking about today. So as you can see, I've been in the business for a long time. We're experts in this area. The whole idea behind Free TV is, to get same channels, same services legally, just a lot less money and a lot more control. So you have the freedom to do what you want when you want. So we have a lot of free options for TV. We can get all your local network channels. And then there's pretty much about 98% of the cable channels you can get as well. If you go onto our website here, under the services page, if you just click on that, that actually takes you to kind of the main things that we do. Obviously, we're experts at what we do. We're very unique. I don't know if there's anybody in the country that does everything that we do as it relates to cord cutting and helping people save money. You can see we're all about, expert advice, installation, and training. There's a little video here you can kind of check out. What I really wanted to show you, though, on this page is there's basically kind of 3 core services we offer. And there's really, if you kind of break it down as it relates to TV, there's 2 sources for TV when you're cutting the cord. One is just an HD antenna. That has nothing to do with streaming or internet, so we're not really going to talk about that today. We'll have other webinars in the future about that. So you can, click on the watch a webinar and sign up for future webinars. Flexible Freedom is basically just kind of integrating the antenna in with more of the grid guide, the DVR functionality. So it's one remote. You're not having to change inputs back and forth. It's just kind of the cable and satellite look and feel without paying, thousands and thousands of dollars a year for it. There's actually options that we have that you don't pay any monthly rate. You have a nice grid TV guide that you're used to. the DVR you're used to, all that good stuff. But the second source for TV is streaming. So we have a little bundle called Happy Streamer, which gets you like 70 cable channels, live on demand DVR. The reason I want to bring that up though is because basically that second source for TV is streaming, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Is not just streaming, but internet and the hardware, the modem router, and streaming. So there's kind of those three separate basics that you really need to have all three of those things work properly to have it work. And I know a lot of you probably run into frustrations with one or all three of those things. So we'll kind of dice those up and dissect those and get into the nitty gritty as we go throughout this webinar today. The other interesting thing we have going on now too, that's probably making a lot of these things more obvious with internet issues or modem router issues or streaming issues for most folks, whether it's you or your friends or your family calling you and asking you for help, is COVID. Unfortunately, we're in this new world of COVID-19 and coronavirus. And what it's done is, in relation to our business and cord cutting, like just in the first quarter of 2020 already, which really COVID kind of started at the beginning of March. So that's only part of, 1 month out of the 3 months of the first quarter. It's already actually accelerated cord cutting. Whereas 2 million people have already cut the cord just in the first quarter of this year alone. The reason being is because, there's a recession kind of here and really that's just going to get worse. So people are looking at their bills and they're saying, why am I paying $200 a month to Comcast or Dish or DirecTV or whoever? And I'm on these contracts and, I barely watch anything but Netflix, it just doesn't make any sense, right? So we're obviously very busy helping people out. Yes, there's a lot of different options for cord cutting. That's kind of what we do, is help cut to the chase instead of someone wasting a bunch of time and money and losing their sanity trying to piecemeal something together and cut the cord. They just hire us to do it right the first time. So it's kind of that same world as it relates to your internet provider options, your modems, your routers, all the stuff we're going to cover today. There's all kinds of options out there. It's kind of a hot, confusing mess. It's the wild, wild west. Again, that's what we help to cut through the chase into, we know what works and what doesn't work. Quite frankly, there's a lot of stuff on the market that just doesn't work. And there's a lot of misinformation out there because guess who's giving you the information? Your internet provider. And it's really basically a monopoly, right? Comcast, CenturyLink, they're always going to tell you, hey, you need to pay more, you need more speed, because they want to take more money from you every month. So we'll get down to the true picture of what you really need and don't need as it relates to internet, as it relates to hardware, modems and routers, and as it relates to streaming, not just streaming services, but also the hardware, to be able to actually stream properly. So there's a lot of different things that have to come together to have it work. And that's what we're going to cover today. So first thing we'll get to is internet. So the first really basic thing that you need is internet coming into your house from an internet provider. They call it an ISP a lot of times, internet service provider. For all intensive purposes, there's really, in essence, kind of a monopoly, unfortunately. It's either CenturyLink or Comcast. So CenturyLink is your local phone company that comes in over the phone lines. Comcast is your local, kind of old school TV cable provider, and it comes in, the internet comes in via coax. There is a lot of misinformation out there, unfortunately, which we'll help to clear up today. The first question we get a lot is, what internet speed do you actually need? Now, a lot of times when you're having issues with your internet, you call into your provider and they say, oh, you need more speed, because they want to charge you, hundreds of dollars a month for more speed. Well, guess what? You don't actually need more speed. Believe it or not, most of our customers, probably 75% of our customers, have the base internet speed from their provider. As long as you have something, we usually recommend at least a minimum of like 40 or better. As an example, Comcast has, internet, which is 100 megabits per second. That's their base speed. That's plenty fine for streaming, work from home, any type of situation. If you do some if you have kids around that do some hardcore gaming, or you're doing major uploading of files, which most people don't do, then maybe you kick up to the next speed, which is 200. But I don't know that I've ever talked to probably less than 1% of our customers that actually need more than 200. So let's put it that way. CenturyLink, you got to be really careful with, because a lot of the older neighborhoods, and that's the other thing too, we get a lot of this, and you see it on Nextdoor, right? People post like, hey, who should I use for internet? It's not really a good question, because you're just getting opinions from a bunch of people that live in different areas, and what works for your neighbor 2 blocks down the road might not work good for you. So it's really not a good source for information. Obviously, you can call us. We can kind of coach you through it. That's a big part of what we do. But the long story short is, internet speed, the minimum I would recommend is 40, and then usually right around 100 is plenty fine for most scenarios. Is there a best internet provider? Not necessarily, because it varies by your address. So really what you want to do is just go online to their websites, test out your address on their websites, CenturyLink and Comcast, see what speed you can get. And that's kind of the basics of it. Comcast has data caps. So if you do a whole bunch of gaming or something like that, it's pretty tough to get to. They're ridiculously high. But if you do something like that, you might want to work with CenturyLink, because they don't enforce their data caps. These aren't things that are really important for most people. Most people, it's just, what is the minimum speed I need to do my streaming and work from home and email and surfing the web, stuff like that. And that's really probably anywhere from 40 to 100. Obviously, the more speed you can get for the best price, that's great. There is no best option for internet provider. Unfortunately, there isn't really that many options. It's either CenturyLink or Comcast. So for most people, it's lesser of the two evils. What I will tell you, though, from experience, since we've been doing this for 10 years, and like I said, I worked, for US West Quest CenturyLink for even 13 years before that, is it varies by neighborhood. So, check out your address, see what speeds you can get. And then also, too, don't fall prey to the old bait and switch tactics that you've been dealing with for way too long, 10, 20 years from cable and satellite, oh no, the best way to do it is the bundle. Total nonsense. So as we get into internet and internet prices, yes, there's not a lot of competition. It's CenturyLink or Comcast. There are other options coming, by the way, in the future. Amazon's working on some satellite internet service. There's some 5G internet service coming, which is not the same as your 5G, cell phone provider. That's probably at least a year or two out if you're in the suburbs. But the good news is there's real competition coming. For now, if you're working with your internet provider, the key is you got to be really clear, internet only. All the extra fees and taxes, all the other bogus stuff is always on TV and phone. So when you get rid of the TV and the home phone, and that's obviously a big part of what we do, is we have options for free TV. We have options even for cable channels that you want at much, much lesser rates, no contracts. Same with the phone. They always forget to tell you in the bundle story about all the extra fees and taxes, broadcast TV fee and sports TV fee, and box fees and HD fees and all the other nonsense they make up. That's where it just sneaks up and up and up. So even if they tell you one thing, it's always going to be something different. So just keep it to internet only. Tax on internet is actually, believe it or not, usually less than $1 or $2 a month, and that's it. You can usually get, as a new customer, even better deals, but even as an existing customer, you can usually get CenturyLink down to somewhere between usually 40 and 50 bucks a month. They have price for life, which is kind of nice. Even Comcast, worst case scenario for 100 megabits per second, you can usually get that right around somewhere between 50 and 55 bucks a month for that. And like I said, tax is $1 or $2. So just don't be tricked in with their little TV and phone promotions, because it only lasts for a couple months. They forget to tell you about all the extra fees and stuff. So anyway, that's kind of the scoop on internet and really speeds and what you should kind of be paying for. The next thing we're going to get into is the actual hardware itself for the internet. So for the hardware, actually, we have a page on our website that kind of even shows pretty good at the very bottom here. You can kind of get to it a couple different ways, but I'll pull that up. The hardware, so the internet's one piece, right? You got to have a decent speed coming in. You got to have a decent connection from your internet provider. That's one piece of the puzzle. It's kind of a multifaceted puzzle. Obviously, again, we do a lot of stuff with all the internet stuff, modems, routers, all these things I'll be showing you today. So if you need help, definitely, go to our website. If you're new to Free TV, new customer, just schedule a call and we can kind of walk through the options and what have you. Honestly, at the end of the day, we buy stuff in bulk. So what we charge to actually do all this techie installation stuff, you could go down to Best Buy and, pay them a whole bunch of money for the hardware, and then you got to figure it out yourself and install your network and call Comcast and provision your modem and all this crazy stuff. Or you could just hire us to do it right the first time. That's kind of what we exist for. And what we do is actually really reasonable. Yes, we got to make money. We're a business, but we just buy the stuff in bulk. We know what works. 80% of the hardware out there doesn't work. If you're renting like a modem and router from your internet provider, CenturyLink or Comcast, they're usually not that good. They're combos. So they're actually like one unit that's a modem router together. We don't recommend that for several reasons. One, it's just not as good. So your Wi-Fi is just not going to be as strong throughout your house. You're just going to have more issues in general, period. We recommend you get your own stuff, and we recommend you do them separate. So a separate modem and then a separate Wi-Fi router. So modem is kind of just a dumb piece of equipment. And you can see this is a cable modem directly. Basically, the coax from your cable, I'm oversimplifying here, of course, but the cable from the coax cable from your internet provider from Comcast, in this case, comes into here, and it's just one Ethernet cable coming out, which connects to either a Wi-Fi router, something like this, or in today's day and age, we use a better technology called mesh. Basically, mesh, just newer, better technology, and it's a pretty interesting concept. Instead of having your modem and your router buried in your basement, you can't stream like in your backyard or in your bedroom, or you can't work outside, or your kids are yelling at you, whatever. This mesh, you can put, they're kind of like little mini Wi-Fi routers. So it kind of takes the place of this old school setup, and you can put like 2 or 3 of these throughout your house in different places, so you don't have any dead spots. So just blankets your house in coverage. You can actually kind of see on this mesh tab, if you go down to the bottom of our website, it has a link to this page, but you can kind of see the concept. There's, in this case, there's like 3 little pucks throughout the house. You can see they're pretty smart. They have an antenna for free TV. Must be customers. Anyway, these mesh pucks are great because it makes it much better coverage, more consistent coverage, and you can put it where you need to get signal. So like if you're trying to work out back, you just have a puck right inside the door near that area, so you have rock solid coverage. The other thing that's kind of cool too is you actually have an app on your phone, so it's much easier. So I can come into here to my app on my phone for my mesh network, and I can actually test my Wi-Fi. I can do a speed test on here. I can see who's logged into my network. I can set up a guest network. I can see my password, which people always forget, right? So if someone comes over to your house, you can actually say, oh yeah, there it is, and there's my guest network, right? You can log onto my guest network. So it just makes it much, much easier to kind of control. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out your network. So anyway, that's kind of the second thing. First thing was the internet, having a decent internet connection from, usually in this case, either CenturyLink or Comcast, 40 to 100 megabits per second speed-wise, for most people at least. Second is not renting. That's the other reason we tell you to not do it. You're paying them anywhere from 10 to 15 bucks a month to rent their junky equipment. You can kind of do the math on that. You've had that for how long, right? You've paid for anything that you would buy. You paid for that like 10, 20 times over. It's just like cutting the cord, right? You're paying $200 a month. Our average customer saves 1,500 bucks a year. It's a ridiculous savings. So all this stuff we're talking about, that's the best part of what we do, is it pays for itself because we're just chopping you off and, getting you the same channels and services, cutting out the middleman and saving you a bunch of money. Same concept applies. Instead of renting your modem and router that's actually substandard equipment anyway, we're just installing the best of the best. What we're kind of about the best value. We've tested obviously everything on the market, right? So we just buy in bulk, we get a discount. That's how we make our money, is on the margins. So everything we do is real reasonable. We just come in and we install, whatever you need to fix up your situation. So obviously everybody varies by situation, which is, if you're a new customer, it's just best idea to kind of schedule a call up there in the top corner. We can kind of talk about your situation specifically. But first part was the internet service itself, 40 to 100 megabits per second. Second part is the hardware. Instead of renting the stuff for 10, 15 bucks a month for eternity, get your own hardware. We install your whole network, make sure it's rock solid. We show you how to use it, download the app, make it easy to use for you guys. But basically, a modem and a separate mesh network. The other reason we do these separate too, that a lot of people don't think about, there's a lot of things people don't think about. There's a lot of misinformation out there. We've been doing this for 10 years, so we're experts at it. Let's say you switch, right, from Centrelink to Comcast. Or let's say you go to Amazon's new satellite internet service that comes out in a year or two. Well, if you have a combo modem and router together, the problem is that's not going to work with their service. So the reason we do these separate is because the cheapest piece of this is this little modem. Instead of having to get a brand new modem router, you just get one and your mesh will still work. Your Wi-Fi name will stay the same. Everything will be the same. So there's lots of reasons we do what we do. But anyway, the second piece is the hardware itself, the modem, the Wi-Fi router, the mesh network. Again, Wi-Fi router and mesh network are basically the same thing. Mesh is just a newer, better technology that gets you better coverage. The next thing we're going to get into is the actual hardware for streaming. So there's kind of the internet piece from Comcast or Centrelink, 40 to 100 megabits per second. The second piece is what we just showed you, which is the hardware for your modem and your Wi-Fi router or your mesh network. The third piece is these little devices, which are the hardware for streaming. So for streaming to work properly, you don't just need a good internet connection from your internet provider. You also need a good modem, Wi-Fi router, mesh network. The third thing you need is the right hardware. A lot of people, unfortunately, use smart TVs. Smart TVs from the TV manufacturers, again, are just another way for them to sell TVs. It sounds really cool. Oh, I have a smart TV, right? I feel really good about myself. They just want to, it's just like 3D TVs and 4K TVs and all this other craziness. They just need something every year to sell TVs. So smart TV really sounds a lot smarter than it really is, unfortunately. A lot of the technology that we install with these little streaming sticks, they make smart TVs look dumb. Some smart TVs can, serve some basic purposes, but just understand what you're getting into there is smart TVs don't have all the apps. They don't update their apps. So a year or two, who knows if your apps are even going to be working anymore, or if they do, they're going to be kind of clunky. That's the third problem, is the user interface for smart TVs are very clunky. So you can see if I kind of go on the remote here and go to my home page. And by the way, that's the other thing. This makes it really easy. There's 12 buttons on here. You have TV power, TV volume. All you need is one remote. You don't need to have a bunch of remotes. You don't need to change inputs. We're all about simplicity. We're all about what works the best and what saves you the most money every month. So this, as you can kind of see down here, has all kinds of apps that you can use. So a smart TV, yes, it kind of looks the same and it sounds the same, but it's really not. Besides those first three things I mentioned, the other real big fail point more than anything else is, remember, when your mesh or your Wi-Fi router is pushing out Wi-Fi signal, that's great, right? You solve that problem. The other problem, though, is you need a Wi-Fi receiver. Just like in your laptop or your tablet, you have a little Wi-Fi receiver in there. You might not be able to see it. Some are good, some are bad, right? The older your laptop is, the older your tablet is, the worse that Wi-Fi receiver is, which means you have more problems. Same thing applies with streaming devices. So the hardware for streaming is the third piece of the puzzle. If you have a smart TV, the Wi-Fi, that's where they cut corners. The Wi-Fi receivers in those are pretty poor. So you'll see more buffering, just more issues in general when you're using a smart TV. There's other boxes, there's Roku's and Fire Stick. There's hundreds of things on the market. This is actually a box that just came out from Comcast called a Flex box. Again, uh, it sounds all nice and cool when you hear the commercials from Comcast, but realize they have billions of dollars to spend to make it sound that way. It's the same old bait and switch. We don't recommend their Flexbox because basically what happens with it is it's not that the hardware itself is necessarily terrible or anything, but they're just trying to get you to stay in their universe. So you don't have the freedom to do whatever you want whenever you want. So they're just trying to get you back with, oh, hey, we're going to give you one free box. And then they start nickel and diming you. There's no content on there that you can't get from anywhere else. And actually, quite frankly, it's a lot more limited in content. Just like a smart TV, you only have certain apps. Comcast is controlling your interface, your setup, your prices. So I wouldn't recommend that. There's different streaming devices out there. Obviously, we install streaming hardware, all day, every day, along with modems and mesh and certainly antennas, obviously, things like that. But the one thing to keep in mind is with the stuff that we would recommend and that we install, it's the best of the best, right? It actually is pretty darn inexpensive, and it gets you all the apps. It's much snappier, much faster, and most importantly, the Wi-Fi receiver in these little sticks or in the hardware that we install is actually really, really strong. So you don't have those issues with like buffering and things like that. So that's the other thing to kind of keep in mind is it's really not just one of these three things, it's all of these three things. And even as a DIYer, it might sound pretty simple, but the problem is any one of those three things is wrong and you're going to have issues. And there's obviously other little complexities in there. We don't have time to talk about everything today, but that's kind of the high level overview. Internet, to recap, 40 to 100 speed. You don't need to overpay for more speed. Don't pay for like TV and phone because that's where they nail you. You should be able to get, anywhere from 40 to 55 bucks a month for internet only, taxes $1 or $2. Hardware like modems and Wi-Fi routers and mesh networks, don't rent their stuff, save the money, buy your own stuff. Obviously, the third piece of it is what we were just talking about, the streaming hardware. There's a lot of smart TVs out there. You don't need to, go out of your way to buy a smart TV. You don't need to have a smart TV. As long as your TV is like 10 years newer and it has HDMI, we can transform it and make your smart TV look dumb, quite frankly. It'll be much, much faster, easier. The buffering issues, all the Wi-Fi reception stuff, that's what we're experts at. So it's not easy. There's a lot of different hardware out there. There's a lot of different issues that pop up. If you don't have the right tools and kind of the tech know-how, obviously hire us. I would suggest, go to the website, schedule a call. The last piece of it is kind of what we're going to save for another webinar, but it's basically about streaming services. So you got your internet, you got your hardware, your modem, your router, and you got your hardware for streaming, which is the third piece. That's great. Then you got to figure out, okay, what's the best streaming service? Now, there's all kinds of options out there for free, streaming services where you're literally getting, pretty much any movie, any TV show you can possibly think of. And by the way, legal. Everything we talk about is legal. We're not some sketchy, file sharing company. We've been in business for 10 years. We're A+ in the BBB. Go Google us. We got nothing but 5-star reviews. I actually see one of the chat topics there from somebody that says, this is a scam. No, it's not a scam. We're a legit business. Go Google free TV, FREETV.com. Just make sure you're doing 8 letters, free, and then TVEE.com. And you'll see A+ in the BBB and nothing but 5-star reviews all over the place. We've been doing this for 10 years. So it's not easy doing what we're doing, trying to compete in the world of these gigantic corporations of TV and telecom. It's not easy trying to pull together all these free sources, whether it's the antenna for free TV, whether it's streaming. There's a lot of things that go on, especially with COVID-19 hitting. There's a lot more pressure on your network. So there's, people working from home. There's kids homeschooling now. There's streaming TV. There's people watching more TV. There's a lot of things going on, so that all of these things are even more important now that you have the right modem and mesh network for your Wi-Fi hardware, that you have the right streaming stick and you're not using a smart TV. all of these things, you know, are even more important in today's day and age. And quite frankly, as time goes on, you know, the internet is the backbone of not just TV and streaming, but of everything in your life nowadays, right? There's smart cameras, there's Ring doorbells, there's Alexa, you know, a lot of these things that we're actually starting to branch off and get into and helping people set those up to take advantage of that is what's coming. And for those things to work properly, you have to have those three things we just discussed: a good internet connection, good hardware from the you know, network side, like your modem, your router, your mesh network. And then the third thing is, if you're streaming, at least you need a good, you know, streaming stick, a good piece of hardware, basically, to be able to have that all work properly. So anyway, there's lots of options out there for streaming services. That's kind of a whole topic unto itself. So if you go to our website and, you know, the very top there where it says watch our webinar, you can actually click there and sign up for a future webinar where we're actually going to talk more about that. I'll give you kind of a real high level overview, because this can get very detailed. And by the way, if you do have any questions about what we talked about today, you can go on the chat and put it in the comments there, and I'll try to get to any of those questions I can after the webinar. If it's something individualized and more specific and you're a new customer, you know, just go to our website and click on schedule a call. I also put at the top of the chat and also in the description on the bottom a link to schedule a call, so we can kind of work through any of your kind of questions that you have, you know, for your own personal situation, since everybody's situation is different. Or if you're just trying to figure out how to cut the cord and save money, we're having a webinar specifically on that next week, Wednesday. We do Wednesday webinars at 11:30 every Wednesday. And then 2 weeks from now, we'll do really all the streaming content. So it's kind of the next phase of what we talked about today, right? It's where all the great free stuff is, really just anything related to streaming, not just TV actually, but anything related to entertainment we'll get into. Music, there's a lot of great music options out there where you can get not just any song or artist you want to hear for free, but also any radio station from around the world, around the country, and, you know, news radio, talk radio, sports radio, stuff like that. Although there's not a lot of sports on right now, obviously, which is even begs the question more of why are you paying for TV? You know, get in touch with us and we'll help you cut the cord and put you back in control and save you $1,500, you know, every year. And then you'll have your freedom to watch what you want when you want. So when something changes, sports are gone, the recession hits, you're in control. So you are saving a whole bunch of money. You still get the same content. One of the things we'll talk about next week too is there's a lot of options out there where you can get like 98% of the cable channels. It's the exact same stuff, live, on demand, DVR, whatever you want, for a lot less money, where you're no contracts and you're getting the same stuff. So we'll talk about that in more detail next week as well. But just as an example, just on my specific setup alone, you know, I have, obviously, you got your things like Netflix and Prime, you know, Spotify. There's a bunch of great free options. YouTube has an insane amount of stuff. These are just like 10 out of thousands of apps that you can download that has just a lot of great content. So we'll cover that on our webinar in 2 weeks. So if you want to go up and sign up for that, that'd be great. You can even get your church on here, and you can stream literally live or on demand your church feed. So, you know, we can't go out to the churches right now. Well, guess what? You can do it right from the comfort of your couch. Even better, right? You can even do searches for things that you like. I mean, the sky is the limit, basically. It's kind of mind-blowing. So if I do gardening, this is just one example of a lot of the things that really is out there in the world of streaming services, where you can actually get to an amazing amount of free content. There's all the typical stuff. You can still get your Fox News and your you know, CNN and ESPN and, you know, HGTV and Food Net. Anything you want is possible. But I'm just talking about, you'll be amazed at the amount of free content you can get. You know, all your local network channels and Better HD for free is something we specialize in. But also just any of these streaming options. You can see I just did a search for gardening. These are just like shows that came back and popped back. I can actually set these up to be recorded if I want to. I mean, there's an amazing amount of stuff. And then these are just apps specific to that. Or you can go out and even click on like YouTube and came back. And YouTube in itself, yeah, I mean, it has your cat videos and music videos and whatever, but people don't realize YouTube has an amazing amount of content out there that's just totally free. So you can see, hey, look, we have our current webinar going. What can be better than that, right? A great free webinar. But, you know, any of this stuff out here, if I do a search for gardening, same deal, right? It's going to pull back thousands of shows that I can just watch totally for free. So that's where we'll go, you know, in a couple of weeks on the next webinar. So if you go to our website, like I said, click in the top left corner of our website. I'll actually get back to here so you can see. You can sign up for future webinars there if you just click on the Watch Our Webinar tab there. Next week, we'll be talking about more cord cutting, saving money type of stuff. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be talking about kind of the follow-up to this webinar, which is going to be more related to, you know, the actual streaming services themselves and what the options are there, free, pay, whatever. And then the other thing I would say is if you're new to free TV, and you have more questions, whether it's related to cord cutting or saving money, or hey, does cord cutting work for me, like whatever, or if it's related to, hey, my internet doesn't work, I'm renting my modem router from Comcast or Centrelink, and you know it's frustrating, whatever. Even if you just need to fix up your Netflix and your Prime, like we can help out with any of that stuff. So if you schedule a call here in this little link that says schedule a call, that'll be more of a personalized one-on-one where we have a free phone consultation to chat about what you're seeing, what you need help with, things like that. And if you're an existing customer, we appreciate you being a customer. You can actually go up here and just refer friends as well. Not only are you helping them save $1,500 a year and making their life, you know, better and easier, and especially with the recession coming on, you know, saving money as opposed to throwing away to cable and satellite for you know, month over month for eternity. But you actually get kickbacks for any type of referrals as well. So that's pretty much it. Let me look at some of the, if there's any questions here in chat. Yep, Stephen, I know you're a customer. We appreciate it. Thanks for the shout out. We appreciate and glad that you're still loving your service. Kim, I have a friend in Pueblo that's interested. Is that an option? Yeah, so we kind of, right now at least, we're front range, kind of from Colorado Springs to Fort Collins, but we do go to Pueblo from time to time. So I would definitely probably send her our way. I'm sure there's things we can do to help. We're actually looking at expanding into other markets as well, since nobody does what we do anywhere in the country, and obviously there's a big need for it. Not just with all the traditional stuff that's been going on with cable and satellite over the years. You know, obviously there's no competition, so they don't care. They'll just charge hundreds of dollars a month. And what a lot of people don't realize that's kind of interesting is if you stick with cable and satellite, your bill is actually never going down. It's actually going up because it's kind of this weird dynamic. But what happens is, like I said before, already this year, 2 million people in the first quarter of 2020 have cut the cord. You would think that that means that the people that would stick around like would get lower bills. They're actually not, because what happens is when all those people cut the cord, content prices are not going down. Content prices are actually going up because it's different people providing the content, and they want to get paid more and more and more. So it's this weird dynamic of you have 2 million people that cut the cord in the first quarter, content prices going up. You can see that huge gap there. Well, guess who pays for that gap? Everybody that's stuck with cable and satellite pays that gap. So your bills are never going down with cable and satellite. If you have TV and phone with them, they're only going up, actually, believe it or not. You know, they'll do it with more sneaky fees and bait and switch pricing and all the stuff that you've been dealing with for years and years and years. And that's obviously what free TV helps you get away from. So if you have anybody that's in that situation, if you're in that situation yourself, you know, definitely schedule a call with us, refer us out to people, and, you know, future webinars, they're for customers, they're for anybody. So if you have anybody, friends, family, whatever, that need help, just, you know, have them tune into a webinar or schedule a call with us. And I know Kim and Paul, you guys are both customers, so we appreciate the business. I think we'll kind of wrap it up for today. Like I said, our next webinar, every Wednesday we do a webinar. So same thing, if you just go click on the little yellow button on the top of our website to watch a webinar, you can actually sign up for future webinars. every Wednesday, weekly Wednesday webinars. 11:30 a.m. we'll be doing a webinar every week. Different topics. Next week's topic is going to be more about cord cutting and saving money, that type of thing. And then 2 weeks from now, I think it'll be really interesting for a lot of people that were on this call, because it'll be more talking about the streaming services, whether it's free or paid content, not just for TV, but for really anything, right? Could be music, could be any type of apps. Heck, we'll even talk about free Kindle, like reading type of stuff that you can get from Amazon Prime. We'll kind of touch on a lot of different things. So anyway, appreciate everybody. Thanks for being customers. I know there's a lot of people clicking on chat about how much you love your free TVs. So we appreciate that. Like I said, it's not easy doing what we're doing, but we do the best. We do the best we can. And obviously, you know, if you're saving like our average customer $1,500 a year, you know, it's certainly significant. So we'll be launching some new programs in the future for our existing customers too, related to probably more like smart home type of stuff, like Alexa, just making things better and easier. And then also maybe possibly like a Ring doorbell type of thing, you know, just some of those things that are kind of add-on smart home type of things that serve a purpose, you know, and make life easier and better for people. So stay tuned for that as well. All right, thanks everybody. We'll sign off. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and have a great day.